have two questions for you. Do you ever find yourself in a situation where your family member is unable to take care of themselves? And maybe they have an illness, maybe they are aging and just not able to maintain their own self-care. And so you're finding that you're even being asked to step in or that you choose to step in. That's one. The second question is, do you ever find yourself with an adult child and the adult child has the capability and the capacity to maybe take care of their bills, find their own home, get transportation, or maybe it's other things. They have the capacity to do it, but they don't. And then you often step in and take care of it for them. Well, in today's session, want to do a distinction between what is caretaking and what is caregiving. There's been a great deal of talk around this one little subject called codependency. Now, maybe you've heard of it, maybe you have not. I know for years I thought that codependency had to do with enabling people who had an addiction to a substance or to alcohol. And so that really limited my perspective on it. And over time, as I began to understand more about what codependency is and is not, it not only broadened my perspective, it helped me to pinpoint where it was showing up in my life, and I'm going to help you do the same. So let's talk a little bit about what codependency is and what it is not. So what codependency is not, it is not just associated with alcoholism or some type of an addiction. It's not just about people being nice and not taking care of themselves and being a victim to narcissists, okay? What codependency is a set of really dysfunctional habits that we all have developed over time as a survival mechanism. It's a way of us trying to keep ourselves safe, trying to ensure that we are supported and loved, and to make sure that we feel secure in whatever the scenario is. So this concept of codependency, it reigns throughout all of our lives, although we may not be aware of it because it's so sneaky and so clever, and it kind of creeps up on you. And in each of these episodes that we're going to be shooting, and specifically for today, as we talk about caretaking, I'm going to help you unpack whether or not caretaking, i.e. codependency, is showing up in your life. Hi. I am Tracey Knight, and I'm your codependency coach. And today I want to talk a little bit about caretaking, and I want to distinguish it from caregiving, which is two uniquely but very subtle ways of showing love and support. Caregiving is something that we oftentimes offer to people who are not able to take care of themselves or not able to do something for themselves, and they need support. So when we are caregiving, we are actually giving of support. But when we are giving of support, we don't do that at the expense of ourselves, at the expense of all the other responsibilities that we have, at the expense of our own self-care. Conversely, though, caretaking has to do with just that, taking. It's correlated with codependency. And here's the thing about codependency. There's always a payoff. There's always a payoff, even though it may be cloaked under being a nice person, or it may be cloaked under, I'm just trying to be helpful. The belief is really that the person, even though they can, may not be able to do it for themselves. And so you need to step in and do it for them. There is an element of control. The thing about codependency, it is an addiction. And the addiction is to control, being able to control people, places, and circumstances. So when we caretake, what we do is take full responsibility for the person, and we don't allow them the dignity and the responsibility for the things that they can actually handle. So in caretaking, the payoff is Even though, again, it will look like we're being very helpful, very supportive, and we really are, but we really are not doing it just purely from an altruistic perspective. We're doing it as a means of sort of controlling the circumstance. I want to take two different scenarios and show you how codependency can show up so subtly, okay? So let's just take taking care of an elder, right? And we know that our loved ones mean a lot to us, and we want to provide them with support and love and whatever it is that they need. Caretaking actually comes into play when we don't encourage our loved ones to continue to take full responsibility for whatever small areas they can take care of. One of the things is that we want to continue to encourage our loved ones to be as self-sufficient as they possibly can, which may be very small. But the point is that you are recognizing and respecting their capacity and their responsibility for their own life. It is actually allowing them to live with dignity. Now, you may have to come in and do a lot of things, or a nurse or practitioner may need to come in and do a lot of things. But notice that you aren't just taking full responsibility for doing everything, leaving them with a sense of helplessness. Because the codependency is where we take on full responsibility and render them helpless when they're not helpless, even if it's something as simple as just asking for what they need, okay? The other thing in that scenario with caretaking is oftentimes caretakers do it at the expense of their own health and well-being, their own sanity. So typically what will happen is you have become so absorbed in taking care of their laundry, taking care of their bills, taking care of their daily, bathing and everything. And it's to the point where maybe you don't get your shower in. It's to the point where you don't get your workout in. It's to the point where you don't have downtime for yourself, or your children, the time with your children is being compromised or sacrificed. And so the consequence in that situation really is that slowly but surely, those relationships begin to sort of lose momentum. Those relationships, they start to feel your absence from the relationship. Another consequence would be that your health is diminished in some way. So that's a huge consequence. Another one is the person that you're caring for may actually become somewhat resentful because you're sort of taking away the dignity that they have and not allowing them to do what they can do for themselves, okay? So there are consequences with that. The other scenario I wanted to talk about, which is one that I'm seeing a lot, and that's where we have adults who have adult children, and those adult children have not become fully responsible for their life. And so I've seen this a lot with some of my clients where you may have the child comes to you and says, hey, can I come and I live with you? And then the person comes and they live with you, and the style of living that they embody and the style of living that you embody is two totally different things. They smoke weed, you don't. Your whole house is reeking of weed and it's irritating you. Or they leave dishes in the sink. You clean up your house on a regular basis, but they're not honoring and respectful of the way that you want to keep your kitchen, but you never say anything. Codependency. Okay. Or they are using your car. You really need to get somewhere, but because you want to provide them with transportation so that they can get to work, instead of allowing them to be responsible for getting to work, whether it's by Uber or walking or taxi or catching a ride with a friend, you have superimposed yourself by providing lodging, transportation, money, supplementing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so the consequence of that is you begin to feel like, A, you don't have full reign and control over your house. Maybe you want to walk around naked, but you're not able to because that child is there and it's taking up space. Another consequence might be that the time that you need to use your car, you're not able to, so you miss an appointment. You're delayed at doing some of the things that you want to do, and so now you start to form resentment because of it. But it's all within your choices. The choices that you made was to caretake the child instead of allowing that child, which is an adult child, a man child, or a woman child, to take full responsibility for their life. Do you get it now? The distinction between caregiving, where you still manage yourself, you still prioritize yourself, and you also prioritize allowing that person to have the responsibility and the dignity to take care of their own life. So you might be asking, because maybe I've put the mirror up in front of you, so you're asking like, but what can I do about this? You know, I'm already in these relationships. Well, there is always something that you can do because you always have choice. So I want to offer you 2 tips. The first one is, whenever you are engaged in a relationship that you think might be in a status of caretaking, I want you to ask yourself, why are you doing it? Like, why are you taking this particular action? And so asking yourself the question of why the answer may come up as something that you're afraid of, like fear of abandonment, fear of being perceived as a bad parent or a bad child, a child that doesn't take care of their loved one. So anytime we are operating from a sense of obligation, that is always coming from a place of fear. And you don't want to operate from fear. We want to operate from a place of love and support, which does not mean that we enmesh ourselves with them. So you want to check in with your motive, with your intention. Another tip that I want to give you is to recognize or to ask yourself, what are you getting from this situation? Because sometimes what we're getting from it is that we're puffing ourselves up. Oh, I am the better sibling that takes care of mama. I'm the one who has always done everything. I'm the one that they can rely on. You're getting fed by that. Okay, the feeding is bolstering your own ego or your need to feel needed, wanted, and loved, and that is a sure sign of codependency. So if you find yourself in this situation and you're wondering what you can do about it, I always recommend that we get support. Look, there are 8 billion people on this planet. We are not meant to live alone, and you don't have to suffer alone either. There are a lot of things that are pulling at us. So take this opportunity to seek out support. I want to invite you to check me out by clicking some of the links below. Set up a free 30-minute consultation where I can walk you through some of the patterns that you may be exhibiting and what you can do about them. So if this episode was helpful to you, I want to remind you to like us, tag us, share us, and to subscribe. And then be sure to leave your comments and your questions. This not only helps us to get better at what we're doing, I can also address your specific and unique comments. I want to thank you so much for tuning in, because you could have been anywhere today, but instead you decided to tune in here and to show up for yourself. Again, remember that today is the day that we take back, transform, and begin to win at the game called life.